Welcome back to another hour of Scotch Hour. I am Noah.
And I'm Jesse.
All right, this is episode 119. This episode, I think we have some fun stuff lined up. First off, we'll be trying the Tomatin Dualchas.
Dualchas is what I'm going to call it.
Dualchas. Then from there, our restaurant, we have our shout outs and get togethers. Restaurant review is the Early Bird Restaurant. And then our Smarter Challenge, which is a change up of the lineup here, is the movie review of Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse.
Yeah.
All right. And then from there, real quickly, thank you for all of our new subscribers on YouTube. We greatly appreciate it, as well as all of our new subscribers on Rumble as well. We are trying to get up to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, so please hit that subscribe button down below so that way we can open up more features and make this a better podcast for you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Anything else you want to add there?
Just remember, drink responsibly and give us feedback.
Scotch Reviewed.
All right, the Tomatin Dualchas. So very interesting, the different pronunciations depending on which part of either Scotland or the nearby areas that you speak from, reside in. The pronunciation gets a little interesting. Tomatin stays pretty standard. Dualchas is one of the many pronunciations we heard for this particular non-age statement. Single malt Scotch, 43% ABV, aged first in ex-bourbon casks and then finally in virgin American oak casks. Their story, the Tomatin story, begins in 1892 when it was announced that the final route of the Highland Railway would pass through Tomatin. So without hesitation, John McDougall, who was born and bred in Tomatin, quickly made plans and jumped into building a distillery for that community in Tomatin. And he did so. It was registered on June 8th, 1897. Tragically, just 9 years later in 1906, it was closed. We've all been through the stories here. Different world wars, different economic conditions created a lot of these situations. However, from 1906 on, it wasn't closed long. Luckily, the company was purchased and it was also invested in to the point where they increased their distillery output up to 225,000 liters of alcohol per year. They did this by dramatically increasing the number of stills. But the question came in, what was the purpose there? And they were not really invested in single malts at all. The recession of the 1980s, so for the better part of a century, they were producing predominantly blended Scotch whiskeys. And then in the 80s, it closed the distillery once again, just like it did many distilleries in Scotland. So in 1985... they closed their doors, which was interesting, though, because since the companies nearly a century earlier had invested so profoundly and predominantly into this company, they were reinvested in, reopened very quickly, unlike many of the others, which remained closed for longer or never reopened. That term mothballed comes in, where they clean it up and close it for a while. But the Takura Suzao and Akura and Co. purchased the distillery from the Tomatin Distillery Company, and they remain the majority shareholder to this very day. With that also came a lot of the focus on being quality over quantity. So that meant they got rid of a few older stills, started focusing on single malt Scotch whiskeys, did less of the blended, and really focused on creating a top-notch product. We have, in our recent past, also tasted and reviewed the Tomatin Dualchas, and that is their lightly peated single malt Scotch whiskey that they produce 1 week out of every year, and then they call it quits again to the following year. But they are known for the softer side of the Highlands, a smoother, more creamy single malt Scotch whiskey from those Highlands. Again, this one is a 43% ABV. First aged in ex-bourbon casks, finished in American oak virgin casks. Why is it always American oak that gets the virgins, you know? Just saying. Too soon. All right. With that, what do you have as far as tastings?
All right. Well, as far as the tours go, they are open 7 days a week from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. They do highly recommend that you make a booking for one of their tours, so that way you're not disappointed if they happen to sell out. You can visit them at visitors@tomatin.com or country code 44, then 1463-248-144 if you want to give them a call. They do have a couple of different types of tours. Their first tour is called the Legacy Tour. Here you can explore the whiskey distillery and learn how they produce their award-winning whiskeys. You'll be taken through a walkthrough from basically from the time that they started till now. And here, children under 5 can attend, and that's free. Anybody who's 18 and over is approximately $18 US, and it does last for about 1.5 hours. Then they have the Taste of the Tomatin Tour. So Taste of Tomatin Tour. This is a more enhanced experience than the Legacy Tour. And here you are also tutored nosing and tasting of 6 different Tomatin expressions. And this is about 2 hours long, and it costs about $43 USD. Then we have the single cask experience. This is 2.5 hours long. It's for 18 and over. And I forgot to mention that the Taste of Tomatin is also for 18 and over, so no children, young children there. And but for the single cask experience, 2.5 hours long, approximately 93 USD for this one. And here you understand the importance of cask selection, and they go to a more in-depth education about the distillery, touring the warehouse, and then you conclude with, once again, a tutored nosing and tasting of 5 different distillery exclusive single casks. So here you get in 5 single cask tastings. The other one, you just get 6 tastings of different expressions, not the single casks. And then the Legacy Tour, you get to try their Tomatin Legacy and Tomatin 12-year-old. So there are 3 different types of expressions or tours you can go visit. It really seems like the cask tour might be the one if you're more into like diving deeper into Scotch and Tomatin themselves. That might be the better way to go. But if you're just looking for an overall general education and learning, and then probably the Legacy Tour might be the one for you.
All right. I do think the cask tour sounds the most fantastic, partially because we talk about how most of these distilleries not only talk about or communicate that they have a particular water source they choose, but several of them talk about their casks. And I believe this is the first one where the tour you've mentioned really focuses on, that cask tour, the importance of selecting the right cask. What a significant difference that makes. And this Scotch will be no different with our bourbon casks and finished in virgin American oak. That is exactly the same point.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're right. Like a lot of them, the brief information they give us about the tours, none of them really talk about or they don't really, maybe they do it in the tours, but But in the descriptions, they don't really say, like, they don't talk about the importance of choosing the right type of casks.
Or the right wood. That's what she said. Had to go there. Tomatin's done a pretty nice job with some of their packaging and bottling in the past. The Kubicon, I wasn't super impressed with upon my first sighting. However, the more and more, even to this day, that I view that Scotch, I was super glad I did go back out and procure myself another bottle. That is one that still holds true on my shelf. And this Tomatin Dualchas, we're going to see if it's going to hold that same test. The box is pretty basic, but it is also of quality. Nothing left wanting, just nothing super outstanding. The bottle, actually, it's a pretty decent looking bottle. It is well curved, if you will, wide at the hips, and this Scotch looks like it has great colors. I normally am not some huge fan of brown, but the box, if you will, and the details on the bottle with this brown look pretty fantastic.
I like the bottle.
I do too. I really like the fact that we've seen this on some others. They take the time and have invested in really impressing upon us the texture of their Tomatin symbol and verbiage, really pronounced in the back. It stands out. And I think that's always a well done added detail to any fine Scotch. Without further ado, we're going to pop this bad boy open. This is not a super expensive Scotch. However, when I looked at a few of the ratings, they mentioned they thought it was one of the greatest Scotch options for the price. So the value is there. They do a nice job embossing the top of the foil, solid wood topper. And yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, they have carved into it their symbol. Not a super common thing, but man, I love the details. It's like the cummerbund, the bow tie, the cufflinks, and the studs. Solid oak cork. And if this Scotch is half as impressed as I am with some of these other details so far, we're going to be sitting pretty tonight.
I hope so.
I really do love the detail work on the bottle there.
That is really nice.
It's too bad they didn't figure out a way to get that on the front. Baby got back. Dun, 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 dun.
And it looks like the Tomatin is done with some kind of stenciling or paint or something like that. Where
yeah. Okay. All right. Here we go.
All right, time for our warp speed and tasting notes.
Warp speed. Cheers.
Cheers. Tomatin Dualchas. I don't know. I nailed that. Anyways, it's this is a vanilla. American Virgin Oak cask, right? Is that what they're saying? That's some claim here.
Bourbon cask finish, and then again, aged in bourbon casks, and then finished in a virgin American oak.
Okay. So this expression by Tomatin, for the price point, I am a little bit surprised by it. I would expect something a little bit not quite as flavorful, I guess, or maybe as sweet as maybe this Scotch is. First of all, I'm gonna start off with the presentation. I actually hate the box. I don't like the brown and the gold. to me, it reminds me of something of the 70s, and I'm not a huge fan of the 70s, but I really love the bottle and all the details that they went into with the bottle. So I was really conflicted because at first, just like looking at it from afar at the box and then the in the bottle, I was thinking like maybe a 3, but really the detail that they put with the top on the bottle with the wood and then the detail of is it burnt in or is it just chiseled in or something?
It's either carved or burnt, but it looks more like it's carved than laser cut.
Okay, so I really dig that, and you said it was like a normal cork, not pressed cork.
Yeah.
So because of the bottle itself, this is like I actually hate it when like you don't have boxes or tins, but I honestly think this box kind of takes away from the bottle itself. But I still gave it a 4 out of 5.
Right.
Even though I'm knocking the box, and maybe it's not the box is bad. I just don't really like the brown with the gold.
Brown's not my thing either, but at the end, yeah.
But the bottle itself is great. I love the bottle. So yeah, that was 4 out of 5. The color, here I put down the color as being a nice amber gold. Or it has a nice amber hue to the goldness of it. And I really like that coloring of it. So I gave that 4 out of 5 as well. And then going to the aroma. So when we're looking at our, going through our tasting glasses here, I got like a nice aroma of creaminess with vanilla bean, some honey sweetness maybe. Right there with some, and I put new oak, but I think you kind of like corrected me, and it was actually bourbon oak. And here's the thing: like when I warmed it up in my palms of my hand, and then that really like helps bring out that bourbon oak smell. And this was over probably 10 minutes ago, and I can still smell it in my hands, and it's a great smell. At first, I thought it was like just like virgin oak, like right after you get done, like maybe cutting some oak. But you made some good points that is a little bit more subtle than that, which probably comes from that bourbon cask. So here, the aroma, because of that oak smell, I gave that a 25 out of 30. Now the palate. Here with the palette, I got and this is kind of weird. I don't even know how to describe what I'm going to do with the palette here because going from this glass to the larger glass in our tasting glasses here, I got a nice creamy, almost like white chocolate sweetness to begin with. That kind of flowed into some great vanilla flavor. And then as it hit my back palate, right where it's starting to start the finish, I got this nice cinnamon spiciness, which didn't last very long. It did dissipate fairly quickly. And then on the finish, I had a nice lingering vanilla bean type of finish to it for me. And I actually really enjoyed the finish. The body or the palate, I would say it's kind of like a light to medium bodied right there. I gave that a 25 out of 30. But my big win here was the finish. I like the finish a lot, more because of like the lingering vanilla afterwards. Because you could just, even after you get done sipping it, right? It just has there's also some, other than that spicy cinnamon, there's something else there, maybe a little bit of the barley or something. And then after the barley dissipates, then that vanilla just kind of lingers. And I like that. I like vanilla a lot. And because of that, I gave it the highest point. This is my, I guess, the highest area here for me. I gave it 26 out of 30. So if my mathematics are correct, I believe it's an 84 out of 100.
It is.
And I like it. I think this is a type of Scotch. Even as you mentioned, and I totally agree with you, anywhere from like I wouldn't say like a cold winter day, but like maybe like a nice fall day or even a cooler spring day, kind of like what we're experiencing right now, like in the mid 60s to maybe like mid 70s degrees when it's like that kind of weather outside. I think because of that vanilla and the cinnamon and the oak and the barley, I think this makes, it's a really good type of drink for that type of weather. And it's even a little bit refreshing too. Would I take this to a black tie affair? I don't think so. Actually, I know I won't. I would never take it to a black tie affair. Would I take it to a game night? Yeah, actually, I think I would take it to a game night. I think it'd be kind of a fun, if I'm just, chilling with the boys, playing some games.
Crazy.
I definitely would take it to a game night because I think it has like some nice flavors, and if someone busted out some like mild cigars, I think it would go great with some mild cigars. If you're having some munchies there at the game, game night. I'm not saying if you have money. I'm saying like you have like.
What kind of games are you playing?
If you have snacks at your game night, or some kind of like nice desserts or whatever, I think it would kind of complement some desserts and stuff like that. Would I put it on my shelf? That is a good question. I think there's a spot maybe possibly on the shelf, but here's the thing: if I'm gonna get something that's gonna kind of like tout or kind of say that their expression is going to be American oak, I'm going to have to go with the Balvenie American Oak Story edition. I think that really highlights and emphasizes American oak more so than this Tomatin. My biggest fear here with this Tomatin is that I'm not sure how it will last the next day, or if you have it open for a few days. If I was more confident that the flavors wouldn't dissipate by a large amount, I might have given it like another point or two. But here I'm being conservative on my points because I'm unsure of how well it will last once it's been open. But as we know, like any kind of like Scotch or any kind of liqueur will, after it's open, it will like the flavors will decline over time. But you just don't want it to decline hugely over the next day or something like that. So, and that's my greatest fear on this one here because of the price point. For that $30 range price point, though, I do think it's excellent. I think you do yourself well by purchasing this if you're looking for a lower tier Scotch, because I do think it's great. I think for the flavor and for the price point.
Tomatin Dualchas. Man, I'm with you. The box isn't super sexy, but what I will say, it's got some sort of almost not American, but English class to it. And I think that that's where some of these earth tones might play a bigger role, particularly the brown. The box, I'm not crazy about the box either. I'm not offended by it, but I am not crazy about it. I do like, when we start talking about like qualities, man, it's textured with the gold. It is stamped, in other words. It is a real cardboard box. It's not just paper where you touch the sides and all of a sudden you got creases. I like that. The bottle is also the win for me. However, when it comes to presentation, the solid wood top, whether it's been carved or laser etched, whichever way they found most efficient, well done with the topper. Like the shape of the bottle, actually. Sometimes they get to these less traditional bottle shapes, and I hate it. This one doesn't offend me. Literally, it's got the curves like the hips. That's kind of how I feel. So, well done there for presentation. I give it a 4, much like yourself. For color, man, I am right there at a 4. I actually really enjoy the color for a lighter Scotch. I think that is great. I was not able to determine whether it was a no color added Scotch or a color added, but regardless, it's still a 4 for me either way. Just because it's in that mid range, it is that dirty blonde, so to speak, which can be a lot of fun, right? The nose on this Scotch. Ooh, the nose jumps right out at me with that vanilla. And I'm talking about when you buy the whole vanilla bean and you're grating it or cutting into it, making that creme brulee, that vanilla right there, followed by a little bit of a marshmallow sweetness mixed with pineapple, kind of like that spongy pineapple marshmallow cake. Just that little bit of lemon, crisp lemon, like a lemon zest, but not sharp. I think for me, that's where the spice comes from on the nose. And then a finish of a just ever so sugared or caramelized candy apple. And I'm talking about the Granny Smith. This is not like the Red Delicious. This is a Granny Smith. It's got that crisp nose right at the finish. The palate is, much like Noah said, a little bit of a different story. It is light, creamy vanilla with a candy sweetness in there. Not offensive in any way, not caramelized, not brown sugar, just a candied sweetness. So light, creamy. There comes that little bit of lemon, refreshing and clean. And it's kind of like a lemon sherbet, not like a lemon water. A lemon water would be too sour. This is still sweet. That candy sweetness with the lemon brings almost like a lemon sherbet hue to it. Back to the pineapple as we go a little bit more spicy, if you will. And then that oak, the finish for me, much like yourself, light. Man, it's got to be pretty refreshing. This is a super hot day. It is light, yet creamy, smooth, hints of oak at the end, a little earthy to me because of the oak. For the nose, I gave it a 26. I think the nose is great. For the palate, I also gave it a 26. The one thing about the finish, I don't know why, but I expected something more. So the finish is getting a 25 for me. Overall, I've got an 85. So once again, 1 point off for you. Unlike you though, I am not at all worried about this being good tomorrow. I have faith that tomorrow this Scotch will be just as good as today, if not better. I actually think this one could age better because even while we've been tasting and sampling it, the finish has improved with me. I'm actually tempted to give it an extra point just because the finish has improved so vastly since we first tasted it. With you, man, I'm right there with you. Like, would I bring this to a black tie event? If it's a modern black tie event, hell no. However, if it's something classical, if it's with a bunch of people more mature or traveled, if you will, more experienced, more English perhaps, Scottish, then I might take it. But it's got to be something where I'm not trying to impress a bunch of hipsters or Americans, because I'm not trying to stand out in a negative way. And that's where I think the box does fail, is that it is missing a piece of that modern elegance. Not that it's not classically attractive, it just doesn't have the modern elegance. Game night, again, hell yeah. This would be fun to bring to a game night because it's such an easy drinker. 43% ABV. You're not tasting, or at least I'm not tasting any of that alcohol. It is smooth. It is creamy. The vanilla's there. It's delicious. This would go with most food dishes. I agree with you. You could probably smoke this with a cigar quite well. And it also definitely goes with many a dessert. Spot on my shelf. Yes, right next to the Kubicon, only because, and I shouldn't say only because, but largely because, man, the Kubicon really has outpaced this so dramatically. And it's interesting to me that Tomatin has decided to produce the Kubicon 1 week out of the year, and the Dualchas and the others, the rest, the other 51 or how many other weeks out of the year they produce when they don't go into hibernation mode.
I will say though, you're right. As time has gone on from the time that we opened it to now, the finish has developed even further.
A lot.
And I would be almost willing to give it a couple more points because the flavor, the body is like actually opened up a little bit more, and so is the finish.
Mm-hmm.
But I will stick with what I gave it as 84. But it is more, I mean, over time as we go through, I think if maybe we waited a little bit to taste this one, but then that would be unfair to the others, which we haven't done it this way. I do believe, like, I think you might be right. I think it might be okay the next day and stuff like that.
I'm going to tell you right now, life isn't fair. Not taking or anything to any of the others. Right now, though, I am going to change my score to a 26 just for the finish. Just because I do think we've given some of those other scotches a little bit more of a tasting, bringing my total score up to an 86, just 1 point difference, all about that finish, because I think the finish in the last 10 minutes has changed that much to me where, you know what, the others didn't do that. If they had done that, I would say the same thing for them, but I am up to an 86 for the Tomatin Dualchas.
It's time for our shout-outs.
You know, my shout out, here we are as we're recording in the middle of the potential victory game for the Denver Nuggets. If they can win tonight, or one of the next two games if they don't win tonight, they will become first-time NBA champions. But way to go for some of their key players, and I've really been impressed with Murray. But really, man, how do you fault any of them right now? So great job to the Denver Nuggets.
All right. Well, my shout out goes to all you people out there who were upset with Bud Light, and congratulations to all of you for knocking Bud Light off of their pedestal. They are no longer the number one selling beer in the United States.
At what point does a CEO lose his crown for allowing this? Like, and then also, at what point is it right that the shareholders are like, hey, we invested in this company for X, you did Y, and I'm not saying anything they did was wrong. I'm not saying that they did something wrong morally, ethically, or anything, but it wasn't about that. It's about a business that has been invested into, and they made a choice that has lost all of these shareholders that have stayed so much money.
Well, I think here is a classic example of not knowing who your target audience was. Like they spent so much time building their brand for a certain target audience to where when they went and did this advertising campaign that was only a one-time deal with somebody that offended their whole market that Bud Light was sold to, essentially. Now it's caused them to cause all their patrons to move over to somebody else.
Well, and that's exactly what I mean is, like, at what point does the CEO or any of the people who did not understand, and it's not one piece, but it is a big piece of who are we selling to? Who's bringing us the money? Who's investing in us? And they lost on both fronts. And again, they didn't do anything morally or ethically wrong to me. What they did wrong was they were like, hey, kid, you give me $10. I'm going to invest it wisely. What's the one thing that you want to see? I want to see more clowns on bicycles. And then instead of putting clowns on bicycles, they put like Muppets on bicycles or something, you know, like they literally did the opposite of what the people who are investing in buying their product go for.
Yeah.
And I'm not some big Anheuser-Busch fan. I don't give a crap. Like if I'm any other beer producer, I'm like, thank you.
I mean, here's a simple fact, right? When you think of, yes, most people like, what do you think about Budweiser and their advertising? If you say Bud Light, they're like, oh yeah, all those funny commercials.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. or way back when, like maybe when we were younger, or many moons ago, when other people's parents were younger, or whatever, there was another brand called Bud Dry, and they had like all these like weird penguin commercials that went along with it, right? And then when you talk about regular Budweisers, it's usually like them talking about the Clydesdales. So I mean, they actually had built their brand a certain way, and I don't know. I think it's one of those lessons that could be taught in marketing and stuff like that. In any case,
It's bigger than that.
I guess on to our. Do you have any more shout outs?
No, that's the one for this week. Nuggets, good luck in your last few games. I just got one, and mine is simple. Mine goes out to, my get together goes out to all of the insurance companies who've decided not to insure people or homes or cars in certain demographics or certain areas because they're considering those areas global warming impacted areas. That's their reason for this. Yet, studies are showing that these very same insurance companies have been heavily investing and partnered with petroleum producing companies. Now, why this is my get it together isn't because I necessarily believe petroleum's causing any global warming. What I do think it is they've contradicted themselves, and that is my problem.
All right, my get it togethers. First one is that the U.S. government is now preparing to evacuate Americans from Taiwan. I believe we have mentioned quite a few times that
Starting 2 years ago,
that China will eventually invade Taiwan because of the foolishness of the Biden regime with how they pulled out of was it Afghanistan?
first we pulled off out of Afghanistan, but then we decided we were going to support Ukraine. One does not equal the other. And also our statement was quite simple. If Russia invades Ukraine, it is only a matter of time before China takes Taiwan.
And the other one, it goes out to the Canadian mass media. Here, they are blaming climate change for all the wildfires that were happening in Canada, even though they arrested a bunch of arsonists for lighting all those fires.
It's literally like the insurance companies in America. It's the petroleum producing companies that are causing global warming. This is terrible. We're pulling out of these areas that are being impacted by climate change from the companies we've invested in. Wait a minute. Like, there's something, that's where ethics and morals come in question. You can't arrest someone for starting a fire and then blame something else.
So here, I mean, I think we've hinted about this.
The crackhead bears.
I think we've hinted about this a little bit, but there is a much bigger play. There's a much bigger thing happening at play here. I mean, no one wants to say like there's a deep state or a cabal or like the Illuminati or something like that. But when you look at like Bud Light, you look at Target, you look at these insurance companies, you look at these these news medias in Canada blaming climate change due to people who are lighting fires. There is some kind of like global elitist group or whatever trying to dictate and force down a certain narrative into people's throats.
I don't know if I agree with all of that, but what I will say is corporations have tried to take advantage and blame those that were not to blame. All right, our restaurant, the Early Bird Restaurant at the Landmark in Centennial, Colorado. Oh, man. What'd you think?
Well, first of all, the Landmark area actually has a bunch of like really cool little restaurants in that area. We've reviewed one other restaurant, I believe, in that area. We haven't done two yet. I think this is our second one from that area. However, the one thing I will say about getting to the landmark area in Centennial is it's kind of confusing as heck to get there. It's not like super easy off of like any one turnoff from a major street. You have to kind of drive a little bit to get there, in my opinion. But this place here it's a breakfast place, and they have some nice outdoor patio seating. The indoor looked okay. I wouldn't say anything to write home about, but it wasn't a detractor either. So I would just say it's just like middle of the road. I thought the wait staff was pretty good. They came around just enough times. They didn't come around so often to where they bothered you, but they didn't also not come around enough to where you were wanting either. So I think they visit us about the right amount of time. The food portions, I couldn't eat all of my dish. But what I had ordered is called the La Jefe. And really, they should have gone with like...
I think it was a La Jefa.
Jefa. Oh, maybe it is Jefa. F-A, Jefa. L-A-J-E-F-A.
It's the female boss.
The female boss. Okay. Anyways, I still think I should have gone with Ash versus the Evil Dead.
I like the LFA name too. The only reason I noticed it was the LFA was because
it says La in front of it.
I was like, wait a minute, what? All right, that doesn't. I don't even think that's proper Spanish.
Any case, if it is the female boss, I'm not really sure why a female would want this dish. Really, since
She's the boss.
She is the boss. But this was a stuffed waffles, what they call them. This had barbecue pork, shoulder bacon, 2 eggs, cheese, all on a Johnny Cake waffle. And the Johnny Cake waffle is like gluten-free type of waffle from what the waitress said. The waffle itself tasted great. So they served the waffle, and then you had everything piled on top of the waffle. And there was no syrup or butter. And I don't know. For me, my biggest hurdle here was that there was no syrup because, I'm used to having a waffle with syrup, and that was a slight bit of a detractor from me. Plus, there's the fact that, and I know this about myself, and so I can't blame the restaurant themselves, is I'm the type of person, unless it's like a smothered burrito or something like where, and this is designed to have all these things mixed together, I kind of like my food kind of separated from each other. And I think, and if I would have ordered the eggs correctly, because the eggs is supposed to be 2 medium eggs. So I think with a little bit more of a runny yolk, with the barbecue pork, that would have like served maybe as like what one would use as syrup on a waffle. But I got scrambled eggs, so I didn't really get that kind of thing. The sweet barbecue pork did go well with the waffle and would have made up for the syrup. But for me personally, I ended up having to separate everything, and I enjoyed each one of these items very much all on their own. Like the barbecue pork was great. The shoulder bacon was phenomenal. The scrambled eggs are scrambled eggs. They're great anyways. Honestly, I didn't see the cheese anywhere on the plate. And then the waffle, even all by itself, had really great flavor to it. So I'm not going to really knock them for points for me ordering something I know typically I don't like having my food mixed up. But I would give this, for the portion, the cost, for what I paid, I'm going to give it like an 8. Because I actually really thought it was a good dish. And I did enjoy it. The service, I'm going to give that I'll give it an 8 as well. I think the service, like I said, they came around just enough times to make it nice. The ambiance or the decor, I think it was a nice sunny day. Actually, the temperature wasn't all that bad there. So I really am not even going to you can't really knock the weather with this, but I'm going to give that a 7. But around score of an 8. I think it's a good place to try if you want to go some place for breakfast. The one thing I probably would have liked to have seen, and I didn't drink any alcohol that day, is that if they had like a bottomless mimosas, I think that would have been awesome there, or bottomless.
That's what she said.
Bloody Marys. I think the one detractor here, it was the price of the alcoholic drinks. For even a draft beer was $9. Almost every drink was like somewhere like at bare minimum like $9 or higher. And so I think they could have done a little bit better on the pricing of their drinks for like brunch and stuff. So if I actually had alcohol, I probably would have maybe given it like a 1 point less or maybe or something, drop down to a 7.
Exactly what I did.
But since I didn't have any alcohol, I gave it an 8. But if I had alcohol, I would have dropped it down to a 7. So actually, maybe a 7 is more of a true number for this one for me. Would I take a date there? I guess if she spent the night over, yeah, I think it'd be a good place to take someone there for breakfast. Would I meet a first date there? Probably not. But if they spent the night over and she spent the night over, sure, I'd take her there. Would I meet a friend there? I could see meeting a friend there. Is it a destination spot? No, it is not a destination spot. This is not a place I'm going to go out of my way to go have breakfast at. But if it's like on my way, or there's no place I really want to go to that's within a shorter driving distance, then maybe I would go there.
My review of the Early Bird restaurant, pretty similar, honestly. I had the EBR, Early Bird restaurant, Benny, BENI, for Benedict. And here you had a biscuit with barbecue pork, creamy spinach. They said creamy coconut spinach. I couldn't tell if there was any coconut in it or not. Hollandaise sauce on top of 2 poached eggs, roasted tomatoes, a little basil, a little bacon, a little cilantro, a few other little things. Those were the big ones, though. And honestly, what I will say is the pork on top of these eggs Benedict, so the Early Bird restaurant Benedict, was actually great. I loved my dish. What I did not love was the taste of, as was mentioned, the pricey alcoholic beverages. So the blackberry mimosa, meh, I make better ones. And it just point blank, mine are 10 times as good. I make them, they're 10 times as good. The Bloody Mary, again, I make better ones. My Bloody Marys on a bad day are 4 times as good. But I have never made that pork Benedict before. That was the win. So overall, for me, the food itself was an 8. The drinks themselves were a 6. Overall, still a 7. The service for me was a 7. The only thing I didn't like about the service is she wasn't inviting. She was there. She was present. She got us taken care of. I think she's just structured really well, but she doesn't really believe in it. The environment. We sat outside. I dug it. It was a good morning for her. Temperature was right. I wished I'd been in Florida, which is like 5 more degrees, same cloud, overcast, but about 5 degrees warmer. I bet the drinks would have tasted better too. But overall, the environment is 7. The food value for me, because my food was so great, easily a 9. This is the mid-range restaurant, easily a 9. However, the drink value right there with you dropped it all the way down to a 7. Overall, it's a 7 for me, which is still good for a mid-range restaurant, especially such a simple one. We get into the wins and the opportunities here, and as far as would I meet a date there? Absolutely. If I was going to the area, would I go and meet a date there, take a date there? Absolutely. Here's why it's date worthy is because there's a movie theater right next to it. There's other bars and restaurants right next to it. There's the Comedy Works right down from it. And if I'm going to any of those other things at a time where I can enjoy this restaurant, all of a sudden it makes sense. As you mentioned, it is not a destination. I am absolutely not going out of my way to go there. However, they did a good job placing their location conveniently where it's good enough that I wouldn't mind going there for any of of their amenities, but I'm not seeking it out. Would I meet a friend there? Same reasons. Yeah, I would meet a friend there if I was already in the neighborhood. Otherwise, man, we've both had better. And I think at the end of the day, man, we make better food. Like,
I agree, we make better food. Plus, there's actually better restaurants there. You have Ted's Montana Grill there. You have the Irish pub.
Irish pub any day over this. And I'm thinking we need to go back to the Irish pub for their brunch on a weekend, because I bet their brunch would beat this. Although, man, my Benedict was great. It's just that the rest was just mediocre.
Yeah, I agree. All right. So if any of you do want to try out the Early Bird restaurant, please give them a try. It's not that they're not bad. I mean, honestly, anything that has that barbecue pork in that dish is gonna taste really good. Just be aware the alcohol prices are not very friendly.
And it's not that they're terrible.
They're just not
The
friendly.
drinks, it's not even about friendly to me. I'll pay. Like when we go to the Metropolitan Bar and Grill and get a Palisade Peach Draft, I would pay $9 for that beer. They don't charge $9 for that beer. It's like a double bonus. But the drinks weren't worth the $9 at the Early Bird restaurant. The food, yes. Ultimately, the food for me was not offensive at all price-wise. I want a great drink to go with great food.
Yes, I agree with that. And so just let them know you heard about them here on Scotch Hour. This week's Smarter Challenge was to do a movie review of a movie that hasn't come out yet. So we switched that now to doing a movie review of Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse.
Absolutely. And I was so pleasantly surprised by this movie. The ending was the only part that left me a little wanting, so to speak.
But that was done on purpose.
Intentionally, yes, and well done, and not offensively. I wasn't like, God damn it, I hate this ending. It's just like, spoiler alerts.
Yeah, it's definitely spoilers.
What? There's more movie? I got to come back and see another one or more? Like, they didn't even just say part 1 of 2. This could be part 1 of 22.
So, I guess, how should we say? What was your overall opinion of the movie, I guess?
Well, let's look at this is a 2023 Marvel Comics Superman or superhero animated movie with a mix of characters. There was a prequel, if you will. There was a previous movie where Spider-Man did have a role, and it was pretty well done. I enjoyed that one. What I will tell you, though, is this one was so well done. The first one didn't do its justice as an intro. It's not very often that I find a sequel of anything better than the original. This one was, and it's going to be hard to finish as stiff as it started.
So I agree with you here. Like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which was the first movie, which kind of led into this one, even though there was a few years in between movies. The first one was kind of refreshing and different, being a late, like a 2020s type of like animation, bringing in like the whole Spider-Man storyline. And because of the whole agreements between Disney, Marvel, and Sony, and the rights, they had to do a different twist than the normal like Spider-Man type of story. And I thought they did a really good job of developing that with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I thought I loved the soundtrack to the first one. I thought the animation was unique and different. But I felt that it was lacking something. And then the sequel here, I thought was phenomenal. I thought the sequel was better than the original.
Far better. Not just better, far better.
It was far better. I think, yeah, like a little bit better, like character development. There's a whole lot of like funny parts in there, but then yet there's a whole lot of meaningful parts. You see the dynamics of friends here, of friendship. You see the dynamics of a parent-child relationship. You see dynamics of a mentor, mentee, and then you also see the dynamics of a hero versus a foe. And you also see multiple layers of people making decisions on what they perceive as the right thing, even though it may not actually be the right thing. Because sometimes, what they say is like, sometimes the right thing is the wrong thing, and sometimes the wrong thing is the right thing. Which it seems backwards to say that, but there are times where that does hold true. And no one really knows if the right thing is the wrong thing until after you do it, and then you see the repercussions from it. And that's where these become like learning moments. And there's a lot of learning moments in this film, which I think it just adds to the complexity and the development and what makes this film so much better than the first film, in my opinion. And the one thing I will say, like at the end of the movie, the first time I saw this movie, because I think I'm not the only one who didn't realize this, but this movie there's actually two parts to this series. You have part one, which is the Across the Spiderverse, and then they have the next one that's going to come up after, here, I don't know when, but hopefully in a year or two. But when this one ended, somebody in the theater that I saw this in was like, what? They just like, what the hell just happened here? Like, why did it just end? Like, it's so great because like, as soon as that guy said like, what? Everyone just started laughing because like, I think everyone else felt that way. Like, where it ends, you're like, come on, you got to end like right there. And after you already spent like 2+ hours watching this movie, and you're ending in that spot, it's like, come on, this is such a shitty cliffhanger right here that you're just like wanting more, and it did leave you wanting, but in a good way.
Yeah, it was not a short movie, but when the ending comes, it at no point felt like I'd been in the theater anywhere near as long as I had. I literally felt like, okay, maybe an hour. And how long? Wait, how long of it? Now there's a part two? Like, oh my God, what's going on? Hopefully, well, and I do say this, I did it with Zombieland 1 and 2. Hopefully when they bring it back out, they bring out the first one and play it, give you an intermission, play the second one right afterwards, because I'd love to see them in sequence immediately. If you don't, I think there's this possibility to miss something. But what I will say is something that's interesting to me is I think Marvel has held the upper hand for so long. However, their release here of Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse a week before, well, 2 weeks before The Flash comes out, I don't think The Flash is going to leave things open-ended. I think it's going to ruin whatever the possible sequel is for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I think they're going to have the answer that whether or not Marvel wants to agree with, people are going to hold true to. And I think it's going to be ugly. I don't think any of us want to see how The Flash is going to end. But no matter how they end, Into the Spider-Verse is either a copy or it wasn't good enough.
Well, you make an interesting point there. And the thing is, like, Marvel has nothing to do with this because it's a Sony production.
Right, but it's still a Marvel superhero.
So the other thing I thought was really cool, what I really enjoyed or what I thought was really cool about this particular rendition versus the first one is the first one, you just saw like when you had all these other characters come into... not Miguel. Yeah, it is Miguel, right? Miles Morales. So when all these other characters come into Miles' world and they glitch, but now here across the Spider-Verse in the second, I thought it was really great how you saw multiple different universes, and each universe had its own type of stylistic sense to it. You had the Miles universe, which held true to the first movie. Then you had Gwen Stacy's universe, which was like a little bit more like pastel and like subdued. Like the colors weren't super bright, but more subtle and pastel-y kind of colors. And then you have like the punk rock UK guy who like it was like all kind of jaggedy and edgy.
I'm out. I
And
quit.
then you have like the Indian guy. So I just really thought like how well they and each character kind of held their universe's nuances, I guess, throughout the whole movie. And I thought that was a great way of showing the differences between them as they all jump from different worlds to worlds to worlds.
It is definitely interesting. I was watching it and I'm just thinking this from my own perspective. I'm like, how are they getting away with this? Like, this is bias in every sense of the way. And I loved the movie. But who is it that's getting away with this? Because to say that Indians are like that, you offend the wrong one, and all of a sudden this isn't okay. Or to say that this world is like that, or that world, or the female's world, and I think you're right, is more pastel. When does that become okay? Why isn't it the man's world that's pastel and the woman's world that's edgy? It gets really questionable. And I loved the movie. I don't want anything changed. But the whole time I was thinking about it, I'm like, so wait a minute, are we starting? And this was my only hope, is like, are we starting to get back to normal where it's okay to like have a vision and not just immediately be criticized whether or not someone likes your vision? It's about whether or not it's a good movie, because it was a great movie.
It was a great movie. What was your like favorite part of the movie?
I think my favorite part of the movie was the whole time that Miles Morales played, and I'm gonna, if I pronounce your name wrong, please call on, correct me. We'll get you on a future episode. We can talk about it. Shamik Moore. Miles is combating the villain, so to speak, Spot. And Jason Schwartzman did an amazing job playing Spot. But with this, the whole time that they're having their dialogue, and then really Schwartzman's, the Spot's character throughout the rest of the movie makes you understand, like, as much as we do or not want to agree that we all impact other people's lives, and they're trying to say whatever they're trying to say, right? Like, oh, well, you're creating a glitch in the multiverse, so to speak, or you're creating another series of events, depending on which version you're looking at, how you're looking at. You're basically, you just effed up the multiverse, Miles. Like, you just effed this up by changing it. And that comes all the way down to when he was trying to be a good guy and do the right thing and working with Spot, and he impacted Spot in a way where all of a sudden Spot is like, yeah, I'm not cool with this. I was hungry, or I needed some basics, and you just changed my life forever. And now I'm going to ruin the universe. And it's that same thing. And it's interesting to me. Again, we don't know who or how or where they're going to finish the storyline. But at what point is good and bad's bad and right's right and wrong's wrong, when in this version they are literally showing that the people who are in control, and I think this is also interesting because we've got, you mentioned his name earlier. Miguel. We've got Miguel O'Hara, played by Oscar Isaac. Honestly, he's my favorite character in the first one. And he's the bad guy. Like, he's
not even in the first movie.
I mean, like this one, one of this one versus the next one. He plays the spider ninja, so to speak. And why he's my favorite character is because he's absolutely a control freak. And I think that's real. And he's trying to do everything that's right. And I'm not saying he's wrong. But if he's right, then it doesn't matter what anyone else does or doesn't do. Everything is predetermined, and we should just be following whatever happens. And in my mind, that means he's wrong.
So you bring a good point here. I think Miguel, right? He says that Miles was the original anomaly, but it's really not even Miles' fault. It's not like he's like, "Hey, come bite me, spider," and knowing that the spider was from a different universe. He didn't know any of these things.
Correct.
And so therefore, the types of and I can kind of see where you have to be careful, because if you do interfere in like canon events like he's talking about, which means that like the Spider-Man would never develop or achieve the growth that they need to achieve, that if you wipe out these canon events, then it starts to deteriorate the multiverse. Like, there is a sense to that, and that is accurate, and that could be true, like on a quantum level. But at the same token here, what happens when that has interacted, like the spider's venom now from a different universe has now interacted with Miles? He's no longer, it's not like he intended to violate the laws of the multiverse. And what makes it now to like, who's to say like what happened to him was not always meant to happen in the first place?
Or what he does was always meant to happen in the last place. I agree. And that's my point, where it's going to become very curious how they finish this, especially after The Flash comes out, because The Flash is going to explain a lot. And this, Sony, is going to have to answer even more. But at the end of the day, what will Sony's answer be? Is it that, well, don't waste your time trying to save the world and do what's right because it doesn't matter? Or are they going to say, hey, guess what? Yes, stand up for yourself, do what's right, follow the laws, be good, because even though the other goods may fight you, you are still doing the right thing.
So, yeah. So before I get too far offline here, when you say his fight with Spot, are you talking about like throughout the whole movie, or like particularly like in the front?
Towards the beginning of the movie in particular, it was just great because there was so much character development and it was playful. And that is the truth. That is ultimately, even though it's an ugly fight, Spider-Man versus Venom. That is any of the greatest fights, in all of cinematography, in all of movies. Khan versus America and the world. It's any of these great fights. It's just interesting because it was so simple and innocent, and it was so playful, and that's literally how they start until someone crosses the line.
I agree. I think that fight in the beginning between him and Spot would probably be my favorite. But since you chose that, I'm going to take my second favorite here and talk about like when Miles first arrives into the Indian world, and you meet the Indian Spider-Man, and the way he was fun.
He was fun.
He was just like a really fun guy, and how he talks about like, don't say chai tea. Chai is tea.
Yeah. What are you talking about? It's not chai tea. It's chai.
So I just think how he was like super playful, and the way he acted with his character made that whole scene really, really fun. The other things I really liked about this movie were the Easter eggs. You saw like scenes from like Venom, and you saw scenes from like other Spider-Man movies. And I think that just made it like those Easter eggs made it really fun. So I'd say my number one would be the fight with Spot at the beginning. Number two would be the introduction of the Indian Spider-Man. And then three, I guess, would be kind of like all the Easter eggs.
I think for me, the first one is absolutely Spot and Miles and their battle towards the beginning.
Oh yeah, that's so humorous and great and fun.
That's just it. Like, and then it gets ugly. And the tragedy here is it's not Miles or Spot that make it ugly. It's when the others get involved that it gets ugly. And I think that that's real. Man, I think one of the greatest moments one of the greatest scenes for me is when he's sitting there and he's like, I know, Mom, I'm grounded for 2 months. And she's like, nope, go. I trust you. I believe in you. I love you. Go do you. I know you got to go do something, whatever it is you got to do, go do it. And that to me is a grow moment for anyone, whether it's a parent or a boss or a friend, is when it's like, oh, I want to actually trust having no control how this ends based on I believe in you. And that was what she said is, I believe in you. Like, whatever, you may be grounded for 3 months when you get back, but right now I believe in you. Go do what you need to do. My final favorite scene is when Gwen confronts her father, and her father's like, no, I quit. I'm not the captain anymore. And I'm just thinking, was that not a canon event? Like,
That's exactly a canon event.
so wait a minute, like, so it's not just Miles that's creating all the problems. But seeing that was so genuine to me, that I don't think, anyone who's doesn't have a good EQ will never understand the impact of any of those three scenes in the movie. But they did such a good job with all three of those scenes in the movie, to me, that everyone can have at least a glimpse of what it means.
Yeah, and I think you, like, here when you mention that one, I think that kind of wraps right back around what we talked about with, like, the different types of relationships and how they show, like, how it develops, and you see, in some cases, you see the trust, like parent and the child trust, but then also you see kind of like the I wouldn't say betrayal, but the disappointment of a parent for when the child lets them down. You see the love relationship of how that can be complicated. You see the proud moments of a mentor when they have taught something, when they taught their pupil something. But at the same time, you also see when a mentor is disappointed in their pupil, right? And it's just kind of just seeing all these different interactions. And you see someone who, and Miguel, who is, he experienced something and now he's trying to prevent it from ever happening again. But he's like, so, I guess, stuck on this one theory that he doesn't allow for any other possibilities.
Yeah.
And he's not open to it. One of my favorite characters is actually played by Jake Johnson, which is Peter Parker.
Peter B. Parker.
Peter B. Parker. And
he does a great job.
He does a great job. And he was actually, from the first movie too. And I really liked this. Like, he was a great actor. I really liked his performances, like in Let's Be Cops. He has just like a fun, like, sense to him.
Well, and I think you bring up a really good point there, is he does have a fun sense to him, but it's so great because truly, so far of any character, any main character in this movie, he is the only one that is shown to be well-rounded. He is a husband, is a father, he's a superhero, and he is actually balancing all of this.
And he's a mentor.
And the mentor, yeah.
He mentors Miles.
That's what I mean, is like he is actually balancing this. And it's part of why I love this is because I talk often about a full human experience. And the only thing I can say is I look around in this movie and I'm like, and mentoring, I think, is part of a full human experience. More and more, I actually think that cannot be taken away from the equation. But he's got the full human experience, and all of this chaos adds to more things, but ultimately it also adds to clarity, because guess what? Guess what you learn being a mentor? When my kid does this and screws up, this might be a way to react as opposed to blowing up at them because they're my kid. And instead of that, it's like, okay, I've had people do this. They weren't my kid, but hey, we're going to approach this non-hysterically. I love that you brought that up. He is so well-rounded. Ultimately, in that sense, he's a star.
Yeah, and I think here he also, any good mentor also learns from their pupil as well. And he tells Miles like, hey, because of you, you made me want to go back and like fix things with Mary Jane. And because of you, I had this child, and I hope my child can grow up just to be as great as you.
Yes, I agree.
And so you can see like how much like in the first movie, you can tell like at first he was kind of annoyed by like having to like help Miles, but then he like kind of grew on and stuff. And then when you see in this movie, you can see like the actual like genuine love that he has for Miles. And even though Miles may have not have like seen it, because I don't think Peter B. Parker was fully aware of all the things that those like watch things or the time glitch things had, or features that had on there. And so I think here you also see a part of a thing where the pupil views maybe the mentor betraying them, and it wasn't an intentional betrayal.
Right.
And that's a very real thing too.
Well, I think what's very real to me, and this is where it's going to get interesting with what Sony does in the next part of this equation, is you got Miles. He's young. You've got Miguel. He's not young. Miles has a choice. Will you get married? Will you have a wife? Will you have kids? All these things. Miguel, I don't see that Spider-Man control freak ever having kids. Like, God, I hope he doesn't, because that guy would be the nightmare. So you see all, Peter B. Parker has a wife and a son. You see all these different versions. And to me, it's like, okay, so is not every one of those a canon? Is not every one of those straying, no matter what universe you're in, a variation? And the only way you ever got to multiverse is it was never truly the same, or every single one of these things was a glitch. And man, I'll tell you what, I'm super excited to see Oppenheimer, because if there was ever an event that created a multiverse, something like that could start the chain of reactions. But I also love the fact that you brought up Peter B. Parker, because he's another example of, you have Gwen's father deciding not to be a cop. You have Miles' father about to go get promoted. You have all these different fathers and father figures in here. In India, in Spider India, he saves the father, and all these different father and father figures playing different roles. And I think that that's beautiful also, because I think that's true to a father. We're always expected to play one role. But at the end of the day, someone like Peter B. Parker is playing all of those roles. And that is the only way to be a successful partner and father. You cannot always play one role and be a successful mentor, father, partner. It does not happen.
So, and I think it's also kind of funny how Indian Spider-Man,
dude, the guy was hilarious.
Says like, "Oh, can you just sense the love tension here," or whatever he says about that between Gwen and Miles. And here, like, just to ponder, if you are Miguel, you're already pissed off at Miles because some other spider has put Venom from a different multiverse into Miles and created the original anomaly. What's going to happen when Miles puts his little stinger in Gwen?
If he ever does. But here's the other question is, so are you telling me that's...
they're going to hook up.
Are you telling me that same anomaly hasn't happened, and that's what didn't create every other Spider-Man?
Yeah, right?
Again, like, you got to pick your poison.
So do you think like Miles and Gwen are gonna hook up, because they both want it?
That's so interesting, because I do think Miles wants it, and I think this is so backwards to what would be the social norm. And maybe I'm just blind and retarded. I think Gwen is actually just trying to do what's right.
I think she's trying to do what's right, and she's trying to hold back her feelings for Miles. Because you can tell she cares deeply for Miles, but I think she is reserving those feelings and that the want for Miles. And and she has a better control over those urges.
I only question it because she was sent to our Spider-Earth to hold Miles back from doing a canon event.
She wasn't even supposed to visit Miles in the first place.
Well, she was supposed to get involved with him to stop him from doing anything. She was supposed to visit Earth to stop him from having the canon event.
I thought she was supposed to visit Earth to watch Spot and Spot only.
Right. See, I always took it as though, I think at one point in time, Miguel said you were supposed to stop him from doing this.
Oh, that was when she was supposed to stop him from Miles saving the Indian police chief.
Okay. With that, again, though, anytime anyone has any romantic interest and is given that direction, and maybe that's the point. Maybe she didn't follow it. If that's the case, is that she didn't follow it to a T because she did have feelings, then it makes sense. Otherwise, it doesn't. But relationships and love don't make sense.
All right. What else should we cover here in this?
Man, who are you looking most forward to? Your top 3 characters in the next one?
That's a great question. I am really looking forward to Miles, seeing how he gets out of the universe that he's in. And so how he escapes. But because actually there's 4, I guess. It's really Miles, Gwen, Miguel, and Peter B. Parker. I think those 4 are going to have some pretty big roles to fill in the next movie. Really because of the Gwen, she talks about like how she always wanted to be in band, and she like gathers all the spider, like, well, her group of spider friends, I guess. And the first one she goes and visits is Peter B. Parker, which brings his daughter along. Don't tell mommy. Again, though, that's real.
Like your mom's going to lose her shit. This is fun.
But the one person that they show in the so-called band is the virtual spider chick who allowed Miles to escape. And my question is, when she allowed Miles to escape, did she realize that because of the spider that bit Miles, that he would go to that spider's universe? Or did she think that he would actually go back home? Because if she was holding true to Miguel and the rules, I could see allowing Miguel go to that spider's universe, because he would eventually glitch out and die because he's not from that universe. But yet she is going to help Gwen. So I'm kind of curious to see like what happens with that character.
Man. So it's interesting that you say that, because you mentioned 4. And my point for that was, number 1, I want to see what Gwen does next. And Haley Steinfeld, we've talked about her a lot. She has done an amazing job with this character, an amazing job with her career. Great things, including True Grit. Unbelievable as far as her performance, particularly not that she's a teenager or anything, but for how young she is, 23-ish. The second one that I really want to see is Miguel. Man, this guy, played by Oscar Isaac, is on the hot track to become what ultimately could be Venom. Like, this guy is ultimately evil. He's trying to do what's all right, but that is usually what becomes evil, is someone who's trying to control the other people from doing good. Third, Jake Johnson as Peter B. Parker. I want to see what his character does as well. Miles, almost at the end of this first episode in this journey, he's overshadowed by their impact on the movie to me. Like, I honestly don't even care about him anymore. I'm like, yeah, let's save the world and let's see what these other characters are doing, because they're having a better impact. This kid is playing the fool.
He's playing a little bit of a fool. I would agree with that. But I think it shows also his potential. as he like lures all the Spider-Man out of the Spider headquarters, and pretty much like he holds his own against Miguel and the Black Woman Spider-Man, which I think it might have been Jessica Drew.
Yeah, I didn't like her character. Her character was cool with Gwen,
Or was it Rio? Oh no, it's gotta be Jessica Drew.
Yeah, her character was cool with Gwen, but otherwise, I'm like, I don't like you.
Yeah, I didn't really care for her character either. But then Peter B. Parker's like, I couldn't have been that bad of a mentor. He beat you.
Right, and that's the whole thing but that's really, again, when I say a well-rounded person, they take their lumps and they're like, I gotta go eat dirt, explain to your mom why you were at home on time, X, Y, and Z. But they're also like, hey, I'm not gonna rub this in your face too much, but I couldn't have been too bad. Be you.
There's also that one part where they ask him for an explanation, and so he starts talking like, just shut up already.
He's like, well, A, B, and C, and D, and E, and F, and G, and well, I'm going to talk in circles as long as I need to until they tell me to shut up.
And that's what happened. Another funny part of this movie, I have to bring this up because I didn't bring it up earlier, is when Miguel goes, "Stop Spider-Man," and they all like pointing at each other. That part was
Which one? No, that's perfect though, because that, again, evil, ignorance. Like, you're trying to single out one. And that's my point is, aren't they all the same?
And how is it they're not affecting the multiverse by all hanging out and congregating in one area?
Again, my point stands. Like, I think Miguel is evil, trying to allow evil to happen by controlling all of them, not by letting them make choices and do their own free will. At the end of the day, shit's going to happen. We all mess up. By controlling every Spider-Man and having the foolish ones all conglomerate in one spot.
Pose.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a noise over there.
Yeah, like, it's just like, okay, so you guys are actually the ones doing no good.
I want to know what happened to the Porky Pig one.
Bacon.
Bacon.
There was bacon on my early bird restaurant. Benedict.
That's all, folks. Can he say that legally? That's how, like, when he leaves the first movie. I don't know. I think it's a great movie. It's a fun ride. Lots of like adult themes in it. I'm not sure if the younger children will catch it all. I'm sure younger children will enjoy the movie.
I think teenagers that have had great experiences with their parents can understand it. Otherwise, I agree. A lot of it will be hard learned in their 20s and 30s.
Well, even on top of that, how many adults are going to catch a lot of these themes in this movie?
I thought it was well done. I think if they watch it 2 or 3 times, they're going to catch most of them.
So I'll say you do need to see this movie at least 2 times, probably maybe 3 or 4 times to catch everything, because there's a lot of stuff that goes on in there. Even in the backgrounds and stuff like that. There's times where you see Gwen doing her thing. She's obviously thinking of Miles because you see like a Miles picture floating out in the background and stuff like that. So it's just kind of, some things like I didn't pick up the first time. I definitely picked up the second time. And I think I probably need to see it at least one more time to pick up some more.
It is weird also for me because we think about this multi-gender, male and female, if you will. I mean, it doesn't have to be sexual. It can just be friendship-wise. And I think that that's where it's going to get really ugly at the end or at some point is that one of them, and at the end of the day, it might be Miles.
It might be Miles at the end of the day. He says, it's probably best that we stay friends and stuff like that.
No, it's not about, it's probably best that we stay friends. It's that we're friends. Like, that's what we are. I didn't go chasing you because I wanted to go marry you. I was chasing you because I wanted to know you were okay as a friend. I think a lot of that gets misinterpreted in, sexual intentions. And then
I think right now in the second
happen.
movie, I think in the second movie, it's very much sexual tensions on his part.
But it could be. I'm just saying it's sadly, truly sadly confusing.
I don't think you draw that many pictures of Fred in your drawing book.
I don't know, man. I got a lot of pictures of you.
That sounds wrong.
You are just a friend. But that's the point is, he's like, what do you mean? Well, this is episode 119, scene 1, and 119, scene 2. What kind of pictures did you think I was drawing? I'm popping a cork, baby.
I'm popping 80 corks.
Again, I was thinking about a cork. Where did you go? And this is what I mean, though, when I'm talking about Gwen and Miles. I think it's so easy to look from an outside perspective or even an inside perspective, from one perspective, and be like, it's all got, oh my God, there's so much sexual tension. And when one person doesn't feel it, it's not there. That the tension's only one-sided. When tension's only one-sided, there actually is no tension. It's just lust. Tension is when there is,
I honestly think Miles wants more than just a friendship.
It could be, but then does Gwen?
See, Gwen is a little bit harder for me to pinpoint if she does or doesn't. Like, she obviously cares for Miles, but I'm not sure if she cares for Miles the same way that I think Miles cares for her currently.
I agree.
But I do think we'll definitely know the answer to that question in this next movie.
It's just weird to me because maybe I am one of the anomalies. Maybe I'm a canon event where I'm like, I don't need sex with the opposite sex to be a good friend. That's a rarity for many. But for me, I'm like, I just want the experience. Like, I don't see you as a vagina. I see you as a friend eating a delicious breakfast or a terrible breakfast and telling me how it tastes. That's what I experience when I'm with a friend of the opposite gender, which doesn't happen very often. I'll be honest. Like, they don't mesh. You can't have a girlfriend and a female friend at the same time.
I agree. Like, I can be friends with a female, and sometimes you need that opposite sex opinions and stuff like that, or that kind of like friendship that you don't get from another male friend. It can happen. I'm just not sure like what her point of view is versus what Miles is, because I think right now Miles is definitely infatuated with her.
Right. Infatuation is a whole different level. Tragically, not understanding what you're feeling. That's what infatuation is. It's like, well, I'm fully erect, standing up, wanting to talk to you. But I don't know why.
I guess, would you pick a better word than infatuation?
No, I think that's perfect. I actually think that's the perfect word. I don't know why I didn't think of it. I'm glad you thought of it because it's fully true. He is so hard to go get close to her that he doesn't understand what he's feeling. And that is infatuation. It's like, I got to be close to this, not knowing why.
Where I think she's definitely more reserved, but they also say like women or girls mature faster than guys.
Like 25 years or something. They try to tell us as teenagers, women are 3 years more advanced to you. It's 25. Men slowly grow. Women just can't grow any faster. Otherwise, they start aging, getting old. And maybe that's why they age faster once they get to 40.
Maybe. Like guys get like younger when they get to age 40.
Like, best 15 years of my life. Women are like, I'm melting. Not true. We're just joking because of movies and cinema.
It's like that comedian. I'll date
there.
you for 10 years. And then after I'm done dating you for 10 years, I'll upgrade and date your daughter.
For 15. Yeah. What's his name?
I forget the name of that comedian.
God damn it. His tickets are expensive. I'm so tempted.
All right. Any last words before we shut this one down?
No, absolutely. I fully recommend 2 thumbs up from Jesse. Go see Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse. It was dynamite. It was such a pleasant surprise. I did not expect that much from it. It was so great. I did think that the characters, the storyline, everything so far, it did leave me wanting at the end, but not in a bad way, only in a good way where it's not that I can't. I don't want to wait for the sequel. And I love that. I love movies that make me feel that way.
I love this movie. I think it was a great movie. Honestly, I saw it like almost back-to-back day. I saw it one day, and then I didn't see it, and then I saw it the next day with you. So like within 3 days, I saw it twice. And I think this movie's great. I think it had like great character development in this one. I love the complexity of all the relationships that happen in here. And when you throw in the whole multiverse, element into it, I think it made for a really fun ride. I thought the canon event for the major bad guy was Spot was great. His introduction was humorous and playful and fun. And then you saw the moment where he turned
Sour,
yeah. And really, it's kind of, I think here's the funny part. If Miles would have given him the right amount of respect to begin with, I don't think he would ever turn that sour. And if Miles took the time more to understand the guy rather than, treating him like a joke, maybe he wouldn't have like turned super evil. But who's to say that would not have happened, later on down the line.
We could literally make this a 5-hour show going down all those rabbit holes because at that point you get to the Batman versus Joker, and is it, as they emphasized in the Joker movie, a mental health opportunity where it doesn't matter how good you are or aren't. So was it Miles' fault? Was it Batman's fault? Or is it just the Spot and the Joker and who they are? It opens up a can of worms we probably honestly shouldn't talk about.
Yeah, we probably should shut that down.
So we're going to shut that down. I like that.
We'll shut that one down right now. All right. So with that, next week's topic.
All right. Next week's topic, and I think we're both super excited for this one, is truly The Flash. So we are, after seeing a Sony production with a Marvel superhero of Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse, going to go see The Flash. I'm super excited. And because of this, though, man, I think it's time to change it up a little bit. I had a mind for one Scotch, but I've completely changed that mind. And what we're going to do is, I think the box goes with the Flash's outfit, the Macallan, the classic cut.
Oh, okay. There we go. There we have it. All right. So with that, thank you everyone for watching us. We greatly appreciate your patronage or your support. If you would like to become a patron, just in the comments down below, the very first link, you can take that link to the Podbean patron page, and you can donate money to our podcast. We invest all that back into our podcast with all the various scotches and lighting, movies, to bring all this content to you.
Restaurant reviews. Yeah. And once again, please like, share, and subscribe. Please hitting the like button and making comments and sharing our podcast just helps get us out there and helps out with the algorithms and sharing our show. Subscribing, please, even if you watch us only once, please hit that subscribe button to help us get up to 1,000, so that way we can open up other features here with YouTube. And once again, thank you very much for all those who are subscribers and all of you who watch and support or listen to us on any of the many podcast platforms. We do greatly appreciate it. We've mentioned it once. We'll mention it 1,000,000 times. Please remember to drink responsibly. Do not drink and drive. 1 dram at a time, right?
1 dram.
So with that, life isn't always going to be easy, but hopefully you find ways with yourself, with friends, with family, with loved ones, to make life great. And until this next episode, 120 coming soon. Scotchman! Cheers.
We hope you enjoyed this evening's episode of Scotch Hour. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. Also, if you have not done so already, please become a Patron member, with memberships starting as low as $1 a month. Thank you, and hopefully you have a wonderful evening.